Hi Vogue, I'm Tory Burch. Welcome to our place in Paris, and we're going to talk about some of my objects of affection. I've always loved Paris, even since I was very, very little. I used to come with my parents, but I married a Frenchman. That's why I'm here. And I have to say, the minute that we walked into this beautiful apartment, we knew we wanted it immediately. It was the only apartment we ever saw, and I think it was instantaneous. We looked at each other, Pierre-Yves and I, and we said, this is so beautiful. And we saw what it could be. This is the gentleman with the pickaxe and spade, 17th century. I love this because it belonged to someone I really loved, Robert Keim. It's such an interesting painting because we don't know who painted it, but I love the stark contradiction of a man that looks like he's aristocracy, but he's also a worker. And so he definitely had a mysterious upbringing, didn't know maybe who his father was, so he was put to work, but also has the sun coming up, so it means there's a better future for him. I think it's a bit unexpected to see it as you first walk in, and it's kind of a welcoming, and it's a little eccentric, and I think that's what makes it interesting. When I think of someone that represents iconic chic style, it's Hubert de Givenchy. And so when I saw these chairs in his auction, I thought this would be an incredible starting point for our Paris place. And I love the embroidery, I love the history, and certainly think he is the chicest man that, maybe aside from my father, that ever existed. One of my favorite quotes by Hubert de Givenchy is that Paris should feel collected, not decorated. And I think that kind of sums up how I feel about interior design. So here's our kitchen, a place we spend a lot of our time. We're here a lot. And I wanted to show you these cow creamers because wherever I have a table, I put them on, and they're originated in the Netherlands, and then Staffordshire, England sort of adopted them and took them over. I love how individual they all are. Each potter had its own kind of cow creamer, and they were decorative, used for tables, for cream, and served with tea, and also during breakfast. I had to show you this because working with Studio Perigali was another dream. It was amazing. And the way they worked on this apartment and the architecture, look at this. Come on in. So here is our Claude Lalanne apple. I was lucky enough with my husband to spend the day with Claude Lalanne in her beautiful home outside of Paris. And it's when Pierre-Yves was thinking about moving to New York, so I wanted to get him something special. And of course, an apple represents New York. And so Claude Lalanne actually cast both of our lips inside, and we spent the day with her looking at how she made them, and it was pretty extraordinary. It's a day we'll never forget. I love the idea of mixing contemporary with old and antiques, and Romuald Hazoumè is one of my favorite artists. I love the way he takes part of his traditions, but also then makes them super interesting and new, and takes old objects that were discarded and creates something beautiful. I love the way it's set against this old portrait of the Elizabethan with their lace scarves, but I like the old and the new. His work is so intriguing because it's about social commentary as well. I mean, he's definitely making a statement on consumerism and taking things that were discarded, as I mentioned, and making something new and exceptional out of it. This is the perfect place to read, and books are something that I think a lot about, I value. So when I first was with Pierre-Yves, he bought me two of my favorite books, and he bought me first editions. One is 100 Years of Solitude by my favorite author, Gabriel Garcia Marquez. And then, of course, The Little Prince, which is a book that is great for children and adults. Everyone needs to read this book. The message is superb. I think 100 years of solitude just made me question time, perception. And I think that is interesting about design. I think about longevity and time and what that means and how something will last and how can we make it be something that's given down throughout generations. Here is a lamp by Urs Fischer. My friend Jeannie Rohatyn showed this to me. She's at Salon 94, and I loved it. I also was thinking it's kind of interesting because I've always known Lalanne to have a bird lamp, and I thought that this was kind of a different take on a bird lamp. And I just think that it's a bit unexpected and interesting. I'm a little embarrassed to say you usually do this and it turns on, but I forgot to charge it. So you have to charge it. That would have been good. This is our garden in Paris, and we were lucky enough to work with Madison Cox. They restored everything and they created a space that makes you feel like we're in the country in Paris, and it's just very zen and relaxing. So I wanted it to be almost a green garden and then certain flowers. He said I'm very specific actually when working with me about the color palette. So the color comes in the pots and the rest is pretty green. We had some beautiful trees like these Japanese maples and just vines that we saved and everything. And then of course we had to have some hydrangea, which also represents the East Coast a bit. Okay, this is probably the oldest piece in our apartment. It's 16th century and it's Flora, goddess of gardens and greenery. And it's about fertility, and it used to be in a fountain. I love the age and probably would love to know what she's seen in her life. So one thing I'm starting to realize is that I do use things over and over again, and these jardinières are one of them. I love them because each of them are so different. They're Napoleon III, they're enamel and iron. And the thing I love most is that the older they get and the more worn, I think the more beautiful they are. This is our dining room, and we had to hire a Fayot Boiserie to do this. It was a white box, and so we didn't have any closets or anything or storage, so we curved it and created the space. Félix Bracquemond is the French painter and printmaker, and he also worked with Japanese artists as well. And I love his plates, and I collect them, and what I love about them is they're also each different. And he took this incredible printmaking and really was the first to put it in such beautiful pottery in China. This is pretty exceptional when you look at it. The rooster and a lot of bugs. I guess I'm a bug person. I like bugs. Another one of my obsessions is flowers, and it's, I don't know, a bit of like me and how I relax. I work with this incredible man named Clémence who has a farm 2 hours outside of Paris, and he grows the most magnificent things, and we pick what we want, and he comes and look how beautiful. It's pretty extraordinary what he does. One thing I think a lot about is symmetry, and this is kind of a bit trompe-l'oeil because you have the closet here that we did with plenty of storage, and then over here we have a matching door, which looks like it might be, but it actually goes into the hallway. Okay, and here's the symmetry going into the powder room. With these Indian reverse glass pictures that I found, which I love because they're 18th century, and it's when Europe brought some of their techniques to India and they melded their traditions with some European techniques. And that was something I've always been intrigued by as an art history major. If you come in here, there's more in here. You look at them and some of the colors are so vibrant, and that's one thing that happens when you do reverse painting on glass. It's funny because I've not always loved that, but with these, I love it. They all have a story, and I think that's what's so interesting. They're all looking away, not directly at you. It's almost as if you caught them in a moment. This is our bedroom, and we worked with the Reese brothers, with Nicholas and Sebastian, and they're masters at restoring or creating beautiful things based on something else. And we found this 18th century men's vest, and that was the beginning of the inspiration for this room. And they hand embroidered and painted the curtains and the fabrics. The attention to detail is just so incredibly beautiful. And we upholstered chairs with it. and then on the windows as well. We brought the same detail into my dressing room, and again, we did it on the walls and on the couch. I think it's just pretty exceptional the way they got the colors exact. And then a couple pieces I made these. They were off of one of my grandmother's bracelets, these squares that I put my boys' nicknames, Pickle, Saucy, and Hanky. And I'm very superstitious, so anytime I go on a trip, I have to take them with me or else I can't get on the airplane. And then the only other thing that I have is a charm necklace of my parents. My father had this gold Zippo made, and I turned it into a pendant. But I remember growing up, we weren't allowed to touch it. And he soldered all of these incredible charms onto this gold Zippo. And everything from, I don't know, St. Christopher to a Tiffany tag. We had a kennel of German Shepherds. So he has a German Shepherd here. The tree of New York Stock Exchange. We were tennis players. I rode horses. His lucky number 13. This shows exactly who my father was. He had the most exceptional style and just did things in a very interesting, different way. I wore this last night, so I had to put it up here because I love designing beautiful things, and this I thought was just so pretty. Some of the embroidery that we did is all hand done and ombre to look like it's moving, and wearing it with something structured I think is quite beautiful. This is actually one of my favorite pieces I found at one of my favorite shops in Paris, La Galerie Parisienne. It's a cabinet, and the reason I love it so much is that my mother always wanted me to get a Coromandel screen in one of my homes. And I didn't want that, but I actually love this, and it reminds me of that. So this is really an homage to my mother. It's from the 1930s, and I just think it's absolutely beautiful. Okay. Welcome to my bathroom. Let's start with my friend Nidhi Allen, who brings these beautiful artisanal things to life. And growing up, I always went to a lot of concerts. And so I call this the Grateful Dead bag because the Rolling Stone bag, I used to take market bags like this. And I thought, how do we bring this to life with beautiful Indian artisanship? And that's what Nidhi does with us. I love the craft of it. And this reminds me so much of my childhood that I couldn't, I think about things that are impossibly hard to find, and that's this. So to mix this in with our fall collection, what I thought was very interesting on the runway. Bye, Vogue. Thank you so much for coming and looking at our apartment and seeing some of my objects of affection. I love it here, and I hope you loved it. Au revoir, à bientôt.